is certainly going to be one of my more hot takes on this whole topic, especially with the common man, because a lot of people hate boredom. That's for sure. I think it's probably one of the most useful tools that we have as humans. But in order to explain why that is, I gotta explain what boredom really is. It's probably not exactly what you think, because most sources will say that it's the feeling of not being able to find meaning or feeling of weariness. I know for a fact that a lot of people classify it as simply not knowing what to do or not doing something that they're entertained by. No matter someone's definition of boredom, the average person usually will attack it, even at the mere thought of it. But at this point, we know the dangers of dopamine stacking, or in other words, flooding your brain with dopamine constantly or in supernormal amounts. So much neuroscience has been done on it at this rate, you know that it's not good for you. From Andrew Huberman to Hamza, whatever, they all have made videos on how abusing this whole dopamine system is terrible for you, to say the least. There is a clear correlation between attacking boredom and things like porn, content scrolling, playing video games. If you learn to embrace boredom at times when you need it, I can personally guarantee that it pays dividends. I know this from experience, but you must also learn that there's good and bad boredom and that it's entirely circumstantial. Recognize the difference, and boredom may be your biggest ally. I just went through a dopamine detox the day before I'm recording this, so I hope that I'm also going to share some experiences with that as well. Maybe even convince you a bit better that this is fact. When you don't know what to do, boredom comes pretty easily, but context is important here. If it's, I don't know what to do, I'm so bored, then boredom can be a good thing. It depends on your mindset towards how bad boredom really is. If you can't imagine how you'd pass the time without being entertained, then it's typically bad because it'll wear down your mind until you cave into something, whether it's bad or incredibly bad. However, a good mindset towards this is how people do a dopamine detox. You could see your current boredom as progression to liking that entertainment more the next time and not needing as much to be happy or motivated. The other context is a case where boredom is good overall. The other context is where you're faced with a perplexing problem and you do your absolute best to do nothing but think about the problem itself. Millionaires and other successful people do this against the really perplexing problems in their lives, both to use their critical thinking skills to their fullest extent and to strengthen the said skill. That's how they're able to solve what may seem like a really difficult problem in 30 minutes, an hour, maybe a little bit longer. A problem that might have taken exterior help and or several days otherwise. They just sit and think. They try their best to remove distractions, use their body as little as possible, and focus on possible solutions to their problem. This is the biggest way that millionaires are able to solve massive problems that people don't see the answers to otherwise. It's pretty mind-blowing what just sitting in your room for like an hour will solve. You can really get a lot done, and I've done it before. It's way more useful than you think. I personally assumed way less of it too. And it ended up being way more productive than I had expected. So I'm sure you're pretty skeptical about all of this. I would say that that's pretty fair because boredom doesn't feel particularly good in the moment. However, I can provide examples of how this works and logic towards why it does. So, logic first. I have a question for you to ponder about. What are all the reasons that you can think of that shows how this can work? Just think about it for a little bit. Pause the video if you want. Just think about all the possible benefits that come from just thinking about a problem. See what I just said you do? You just exercised the principle as you sat there and thought about the reasons why it worked. During a moment of little distractions, when you only have yourself, it's not super difficult to sit there and solve a problem. The only real thing is that people hate boredom with a passion. If boredom wasn't attacked so viciously, people will get more done, more problems solved. I can tell this by realizing how much or little gets done depending on how hyper-stimulated I am on a particular day. It's a big part of why I can seemingly get straight A's and not feel like I'm even maximizing anything, or doing much of anything at all. I'm bored in school, but I don't necessarily want to burn time away with video games on my computer, so I work. With a high level of boredom, I soon get into a flow state, and then before I know it, I've done the same amount of work that most students would do in days or weeks in the matter of a couple hours. When people ask me how I've been able to obtain and maintain such a high grade level, I simply tell them that when I have work to do, I just do it. I joke around and say it's my bare minimum, which I kind of half believe. But if I'm talking about the real reason, it's because I don't avoid boredom like it's really bad or anything. Because in all honesty, it's not. Boredom is the way that we've always been able to get things done as humans. That is the way that geniuses like Albert Einstein have been able to sit there and think of theories. Because they just sit there and do that, and that's it. Not having something to do isn't necessarily a bad thing because you can sit there and think and get solutions to your problems, or you can think of great ideas that maybe not even are solutions to problems. Maybe they're just really good things. And what's the harm in at least trying them? Especially since you're given even more time to think over all the pros and cons of a said idea. It's just an idea. So the last reason why boredom is good is something I've brought up several times on these videos now, but I've never really explained what it is for the people that don't know. Dopamine detoxes are something that I personally take a lot of joy in. Dopamine detoxes for me have crushed addictions, cleanly cleared headaches, made dopaminergic activities more enjoyable, and strengthened my willpower, albeit that last one still has a long way to go. Basically, a dopamine detox is where everything that releases high dopamine, basically anything you would do to enjoy yourself that isn't strictly productive, should be avoided for a specified period of time. Drugs, porn, video games, movies, TV, music, whatever. All of it. A dopamine detox can typically be as short as a single day, or as long as you really want, to be honest. The only stipulation is that anything that you know releases high dopamine, especially dopamine stacking, is prohibited. Drugs, I already mentioned all this. I should really go off the script next time. Now that I say that, it's very clear how this relates back to boredom. A dopamine detox, in my experience, is one of the best things you can do for your mental health. No exaggeration. I don't think it's at meditation levels of life-changing, if you aren't long-term about it, but it is a game-changer, definitely. I can speak from experience from this. Just yesterday, this past Wednesday, the previous Saturday and Sunday, I went to a friend's house and I had indulged in stuff. I ate cookies and Pop-Tarts and I played on the VR for a bit and I had a massive headache afterwards and my stomach didn't feel too good. And I was like, yeah, this is not something that I can continue doing forever. By far, these kinds of things, specifically cookies and Pop-Tarts and junk food like that, these are going to be limited to 2 days out of the year, if I even do that. It's going to be Thanksgiving and Christmas, because those are the two holidays with massive dinners. It hurts to eat those things and then later reflect back on that with pain to realize that I had no reason to eat those things because there were two other guys there that were much more willing to eat those things. Why did I do it? I think I'm just a massive people pleaser. So now I realized that, and then I went to Wednesday to sit there that morning and do nothing but learn. I wrote down a bit in my journal. I didn't do near as much as I think I could as well. But basically, like this entire page right here, starting from here, all of this, and then all of this was just me writing down things from a podcast I listened to that morning. And I think I got quite a bit. It was a lot about being able to hack habits and whatnot. And then there was a little bit of Andrew Huberman stuff that was actually related to motivation. And honestly, I got done more that morning than I did the entirety of the previous Sunday. Which is terrible to say because I did spend the Sabbath watching conference because I wasn't able to go to church. I should have been doing more. I should always be doing more. That's the thing I've realized. I should always be doing more, and if I'm not doing more, I need to figure out a solution to why I'm not. And then I need to figure out why I'm not, and then make a solution towards doing more. The dopamine detox is merely the beginning of me going into a more productive state. I hope that this will carry on into summer break, like months from now, because it's a lot. And just doing that every morning makes me way better than like 90% of people. I'm gonna be honest. Just doing that every morning on top of what I already do, all of this and whatnot, that puts me ahead of like 90% of everyone else in my position. I don't think I'm exaggerating with that. I know quite a few people, on a baseline level at least, enough to know what they do from day to day. And I can absolutely say that the majority of people don't do stuff like this. You're not going to see someone just go a few days without TikTok because they think it'll make them happier. The only reason they'll do that is because they're forced to, and they won't like it. And because they don't like it, they don't get half the benefits of it. Because most of the benefits are neurological. So it's, most people don't take time in the morning to sit there and do work or learn or do any of that stuff either. Let's be honest. Before you got onto self-improvement, what was your morning routine like? If you're answering honestly, the biggest thing is probably that, one, it hardly existed. You probably just did whatever you wanted to that morning. And two, you probably waited to do work until like 8 or 9 o'clock until you got onto the whole self-improvement thing. And you heard the statement that working within 90 seconds of waking up is like the way to go. I've been trying to get onto that as well. I'm hoping I can do that starting tomorrow morning. I just didn't do it this morning because I stayed up late, so I got up all drowsily and whatnot. I still got to work pretty soon after, as soon as I could. But I'm looking forward to the future and what it holds because I am really excited to go off on my own and finally get to the point where everyone that I know now will be filtered out by how much they're actually going to try in life. Like everyone that I know of Like all the people addicted to TikTok and all the people that have never exercised a single day in their life, all of it gone. All of them. I don't think high school is that beneficial. I gotta be honest. I think most of the things that I can get from high school, I could get faster or easier, if I was just homeschooled and then I sat there and learned. I think a lot of the things that I learned today could be fixed by me having that 8 hours of my life back. Because one, I could use that toward making money, which is the biggest thing. And second of all, a lot of time in school is spent around degenerates because it's just the average person. So the average person is going to be a degenerate. The average person that you meet will be a degenerate in some way, whether that's just purely in dopamine seeking, dopamine stacking sort of behaviors, or whether they actually just straight up watch porn. It doesn't matter. Usually there is that. This freaking thing, the best thing I've gotten from school in recent memory, I think, is not even really the friends, but in the resources that I found from looking up stuff like how to be more productive in school, and then also stuff that I actually get in school. This is from Dave Ramsey, which is like one of the biggest financial guys that you can follow, because a lot of his information and a lot of his stuff is mostly common sense, give or take. Like, yeah, sure, he'll have some big things on him, but he's like, you don't need to know all of this, you just need to know how it works. Which even then, I like the math, so it's whatever. But Dave Ramsey is probably the financial guy that I listen to now. And I learned about him from school. So, like, there can be useful things in school. But for the most part, a lot of it's not. This is probably the most useful thing that I've ever gotten from school, is just learning about this guy and all the things that him and his personalities, I think he calls them, talk about. That's honestly the biggest thing that I've gotten from school. Other than that, if I was you, I would just go into a productive state in school of straight boredom, crush all the assignments in there, and then try and do more exterior work outside of that. I actually scripted a bit of this video in that personal finance class during some free time last Tuesday, because it's like holiday break and whatnot, and because I worked ahead, because I'm like that. Hopefully I have given you a good idea on how boredom can be used to your advantage. I think that it is genuinely useful, and that more people need to start using it to their advantage. But then again, we need fools for the capitalist society to work, so do or don't. It is your choice after all. Everyone has free will, everyone chooses what they want to do in life. It's just whether or not you want to live a subpar life of constantly seeking dopamine, or you want to live a fulfilling life where you're constantly going after your purpose, no matter what you think you have to sacrifice.